All right. Hello, everybody. This is More Than Just a Movie, where we break down classic Black films every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I said 8 p.m., 3 p.m. I got another show at 3 p.m. I said 8 p.m. No. 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on YouTube Live. Do me a favor and subscribe below. Subscribe, like, and share. If The Five Heartbeats is your favorite movie, then you are in store for a treat today. I am Kendell Lenice, and that is my boy, Leroy Mckenzie Jr., and we are here every week. Hey, Leroy.
What's going on, lady? Look at that smile. Look at that smile. Look at that smile.
This is one of my favorites, like they say. This is one of my favorite movies. The Five Heartbeats. It came out in March 29th, 1991. Box office, it made in U.S. and Canada in the opening weekend. What is this? $8,750,000. Starring Robert Townsend, directed by Robert Townsend, and starring Robert Townsend, Michael Wright, Tico Wells, Leon Robinson, Harry Lennox, Diane Carroll, Hawthorne James, Big Red, the Nicholas brothers, and so many other amazing talents. The original screenplay, as many know or may not know, was written by Robert Townsend and Keenan Ivory Wayans. So let me tell y'all. So about 3 years ago, Robert Townsend came up with a documentary behind the scenes, or behind The Five Heartbeats. So he did a documentary on making it and the journey, and it was amazing. It was in limited theater, so I saw that 3 years ago in the movies, and I saw it about 4 times on All Black Network. I love it. Everybody, I tell them always, watch the making of The Five Heartbeats. So The Five Heartbeats was originally supposed to be, not supposed to be, but it was inspired by The Temptations. A lot of people don't know that because that was Robert Townsend's favorite group. So he had members, Eddie Kendricks especially, to kind of be a consult on the movie. But then he got killed. And also when it finally got picked up after multiple tries, they said, well, we don't want any Temptations consultants because Berry Gordy might get mad because he might think that Big Red is about him. So Robert Townsend said, well, what other group do I love? So he said the Dells. So the Dells began talking about their stories, and Robert Townsend began listening some more, and he rewrote it. So a lot of times it was supposed to be picked up, it didn't. So Keenen Ivory Wayans said, I got another opportunity and I'm going to do that. Later we find out that's in living color. And Robert Townsend tweaked the play, the script again, and it got picked up for what we see today. All right, Leroy,
Well,
the five heartbeats. What do you think about the five heartbeats?
well, you gave the box office. Guess what the budget was for the
Huh?
movie? Guess what the budget was for the five heartbeats?
No, the box office. That was the box office.
No, I know, but guess what?
You saying the budget? Oh, you can tell them. I have it here. Tell them.
$280,000.
Yeah.
And it made 8.7 million.
Yeah.
You do the math.
Yeah.
Now that's a return on your investment there.
But the funny thing, you want to hear the funny thing about that, y'all, Leroy and everybody watching, is it was only in limited theaters.
Yep.
It came out around the same time as New Jack City. And what had happened is it was pulled out of some theaters because somebody was acting a fool in the New Jack City theaters. So the white executives were like, got scared, like another black movie, let's pull it out some. And also Robert Townsend and Leon, and they talk about this in the making of the Five Heartbeats. What happened there was the trailer. So the trailer was singing, right? And they felt that singing was just a piece of the movie. Now we know about the drama in the Five Heartbeats with the brothers, with the group, with Big Red hanging people out the window. But the trailer looked soft, and a lot of people thought it was just dudes singing, and they were mad because they wanted to get the trailer to be different, to show depict the movie, and it never got that chance. So even though it made a lot in the box office, a lot of people didn't see it in the box office, and a lot of people, it didn't stay in the box office long.
And that's the thing you got to think about. Back in the early '90s, you didn't have a lot of black directors, and I think Robert Townsend talked about this too. You didn't have a lot of black directors out in movies, because he had said even then too, they were only doing one, maybe two black movies a year, and then they were limited in the number of theaters that the black movies could play in. It's not like it was playing all over all everywhere.
Right.
So that goes to show you it could have made even more money had the who was the what studio it was with that backed this. Do you remember?
I know they did Sony. They went through so many. I can't think exactly which one it is now because watching that documentary, they went through a lot. So
right, and that's been Robert Townsend's story, Spike Lee's story. Well, Spike has kind of had some of the big studios behind him, but they didn't put the money behind him because he went to his friends to do Malcolm X.
Yeah.
To get, to finish Malcolm X, and that was ridiculous. But this movie here, like you said, they put Robert Townsend through so many hoops in order to be able to get this movie done, and I get the them not wanting to have the movie based off of the Temptations, but it actually was. But you could actually, are you? Oh, you're muted. Oh, okay.
No, I hear you.
Oh, okay. But this story, the story about these musicians, you could actually take it to the Temptations. You could take it to the Dells. You could take it to what was some of the other groups that were back? The Four Tops. You could all of those groups, and then even your favorite group, New Edition.
Yeah.
When you look at that biopic that they did of them, this is that same movie. This is to me, it's the same movie. You have the same kind of theme, the same kind of story. You have you got the young kid, the young guys, they come together, they form a group, they come out of, trying to make it come up, they get to come up, and you got the one that always has the big head, i.e. Bobby Brown, the things.
And the Bobby star, Brown, you mean the star?
Yeah, Eddie Kane Jr., Eddie Kane, let me say Eddie Kane Jr., the story, the drugs that came along in it, the story, that story kind of resonated to me through all of those. When I think of those big name groups, the Temptations, Four Tops, and all of them, and even like I said, up to New Edition, where the storyline was kind of the same, to a certain extent. But I mean, I loved it either way. My and his and I told you this before too, before we came on today, but here's the thing that I always kick myself about, and I always say this: I kick myself about this movie because you know how you always ask me, do I know where I was when I saw this movie?
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing about this movie: I was in college down at the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, and working in Salisbury, Maryland, and I worked in the one movie theater that was down there in Salisbury, in the mall. I worked in that movie theater, and this movie was playing there. It was probably one of the theaters that it was playing in, but I did not go to see the movie, and I can see the movies for free, but never took the time to go and see the movie while it was in the theaters. And like you said, it wasn't in the theaters that long either. So I didn't get a chance to see it in the theaters, but I did see it when it came out on DVD. And I kicked myself because I was just like, this is a great movie. This is
Yeah.
it was a well put together, the
Yeah.
stories within the stories, because everybody in the group had a story.
Yeah.
That was the great thing about it. So Robert Townsend did a great thing of bringing all of those stories together and telling
Yeah.
the full story of this
Yeah.
group of these guys that wanted to make it, and then their fall and everything. And then as they get older. So I loved it. This is one of my all-time favorite movies ever. I can watch it
Mine
anytime it
too.
comes on. Anytime it comes
How
on,
many
I'll
times have
watch
you
it.
seen it? Do you even
Oh,
know?
no, I can't even count. It's just well over. I'm talking well over, probably well over 50 times.
Yeah.
And I got the
I'm
DVD.
yeah.
I got the DVD too. So,
I'm with you. This came out in 1991. That's the year I got married and moved to
oh
Vegas.
okay.
And I
Oh okay.
remember the first time. But I
Mhm.
just remember watching that. I was 20 years old because, yeah, 71,
Mhm.
91, and in 2021, I'll be 50. So, yeah, it's easy for me to remember. But I was 20 years old and my kids weren't even born. And I say that to say my oldest daughter, this was one of her favorite movies as well. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so many different lines, so many different scenes. And Robert Townsend, I just admire him. I got a chance and the pleasure to interview his amazingly talented daughter for Sheen Magazine, Sheen Talk, Sky
Mhm.
Townsend.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, and she's on a Black Lady sketch show. She's like a funny comedian, and she's just a singer, an artist. She's just an amazing young lady. And I told her as a mom, I was like, "You was raised right." But she was talking. I said, this interview is about you, but I would be remiss if I don't talk about your dad. And you're not shying away from that being your dad because sometimes celebrity kids say, "Well, I want to make my own way."
Mhm.
But she
Mhm.
was talking about how she knew who her father was and how he made a difference. And she said that he was teaching her comedy and teaching her acting and ethics all in the car going to school. They would practice different voices, like different characters and do stuff like that. And I thought that that was pretty awesome because as we know that Robert Townsend wears many hats.
Right.
Um, he wears a director hat, a producer hat, an actor hat, a screenwriter hat. And with the Five Heartbeats, he did just that. A lot of people don't know that. I don't even want to say his name, the Kelly guy. I'll leave it at that. He auditioned for it. I remember I saw Don Cheadle. He was going to be in it. Niecy Nash, a young Niecy Nash, Tia and Tamara. It was so many people that were clamoring to be in this movie.
Oh wow.
But for the brother who was played by Leon, guess who Robert Townsend wanted to be in this movie like badly? No, I'm sorry, not Robert, not Leon's character. Michael Wright, Eddie Kane. Guess who he wanted to be him? Denzel. He wrote it for Denzel. That's who he wrote it for. He wrote it for Denzel. But see, you can't see it now because Michael Wright did so well. If it was always Denzel, you might not be able to tell.
I love Denzel. I love him. I think he's the epitome of actors. But I don't know if this role didn't fit him. Did you find out what made him go with what Denzel turned it down?
Because no, he had it in because he was going to do it. Denzel ended up being on the set, but he had gotten another role right before. Because remember, I told you it was years before it actually took. They would do it and say, no, I'm not going to. So it took like a decade to kind of really get it filmed. So by that time, people starting to blow up. They got stuff. Keenan had to leave because he was due, he had to go, and, people had started falling off because
it wasn't getting done.
It was taking a minute.
Right.
Yeah. So it's so many different things. I have some trivia, but we'll do that later.
Okay.
So let's start this. And of course, the soundtrack. Let's talk about that. The soundtrack was, come on. Like the song, I Ain't Got Nothing But Love. What's the favorite, when you think about 5 Heartbeats, what's the song that comes to your mind the first song?
A House is not is that
a house? Is a house of love.
Yeah.
And I learned. And those are all sung by the Dells. And a lot of people don't know that they weren't singing. The 5 Heartbeats weren't. It was the Dells singing it. And they did well. So let's talk about the characters. Who you want to start with? Let's start with Dresser.
Okay.
So when you think about Dresser, back there in the middle, I'm looking at him first in your little thing. So when you think about Dresser, what do you think about Dresser? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think about that baritone voice. I think he was the mediator of the group. He was the one that didn't want no trouble. He was the peacemaker. He seemed like the peacemaker of the group. That if he was the one that would go in between everybody else to be able to talk and get things done. Because if you remember, I believe it was the start of the movie when they're singing, they were getting ready to go on stage, and Robert Townsend's character, his character Duck, gets upset because Eddie Kane right here, he's not there yet. And he's like, we singing in 5-part harmony. He's not here. And Dresser was like, okay, calm down. So he seemed to be that peace in the group.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna go to each of them, but that's what I think about when I think about Dresser.
And his deep voice.
Yeah.
That voice. So a lot of people don't know with him, and I've seen that daggone documentary so many times. Dresser was a teacher. And in real life, Harry Lenice was a teacher, and he did some, plays and stuff, but he was a school teacher. And it's each one who auditioned. See, Robert Townsend's casting agent was like, well, just see other people for a lot of them. And he was like, nope, this is who I want. And Dresser was a teacher. So later when they went to go try to hike up the promotion, they went back to his school where he taught at. But as we talked about Love and Basketball too, he played Sanaa Lathan's dad in Love and Basketball. But okay, let's go to Tico Wells.
That's choir boy, right?
Choir boy. So when Robert Townsend first saw him, they just started doing improv, they said, and just started working well. And he knew instantly that would be choir boy. So let's talk about choir boy. What you think about him when you think of choir boy?
Well, you think of just that he, his character was raised in a church family. Father was a strict pastor. He was a PK, preacher's kid, and so he had that strict upbringing. It was you can't say, if you're not singing for the Lord, then you're not singing. He had that kind of father, kind of secluded. Because I know
what you say. I can't. You say that again.
He was he was secluded because of his father being a
like
preacher.
naive,
Yeah, so he didn't have, excuse me, he didn't have the worldly experiences that the other brothers had. So as a consequence, when he got out there in the world, it was, hey, we gonna be
in that secular world. In that secular world,
exactly.
Because his daddy was not playing. His mom and dad was strict, but his mom was like, "Go on, baby, you know, try." His dad was like, you know. So when he finally came out to a show, right? And he also was choir boy. He also was a little low key, too.
Right. He was
when you
quiet
think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was the quiet one out of the group.
Yeah. So let's go with Leon JT.
player from the Himalayas.
So he was Duck's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And his biggest competition, biggest supporter, biggest rival, you know, even took his girl a couple times, you know, playing a game, going over there to see, you know, blah, 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 blah. But of course, Leon plays the smooth talking JT as he does in many movies. You know, back then he would go by Leon Robinson, but people know him now just as one word, Leon. You know, and he started off in Madonna's Like a Prayer video. And Madonna uses the one name as well. All right, so who else? So let's say, all right, Michael Wright. Eddie Kane Jr. Now, this has been a thing because people like say, is it King? Is it Kang?
Right.
Is it King? Is it King? But it's King. But he said it was some swagger. Kang.
Or a little twang with it. Because he dragged where you think it's Kang, Eddie Kane. Oh, Kane, I'm sorry. It sounds like Kane, because that's what I thought it was until
it is King.
No, Kane. At first, I thought it was Kane.
Gotcha.
Because that's the way it sounded. The way that he drug it out. But I remember listening to him in an interview, and he was saying it's not Eddie Kane.
It's King.
It's Eddie King.
Yes,
right.
King.
So we because he said he had people that would say that to him. Eddie Kane. It's like, no, it's Eddie King.
Because of how he said it. People thought, yeah. Now this one. Now they said in the documentary that Michael Wright was the typical artist. And they went to Eddie, Robert Townsend went to a play. They were like, you got to see this guy. I know you can't get who you want. You got to see this guy. Saw him in the play. He was good. Saw him in the movie. I can't think of the movie. And the director was like, yeah, he's good. But basically, like, he's temperamental. He's a handful. You know, he had that already kind of, not Eddie King so much, but the whole kind of
diva.
What you would think of the artist. Like, I'm serious about my craft and I'm temperamental and I'm this and I'm that. And he was a piece of work to work with.
He was the diva, but he was the Bobby Brown of the Five Heartbeats.
Yeah. But that man right there, you know, he was something. Like he was something. In real life too, but of course it all worked together. So in the documentary, I remember they were talking about a scene with him and your boy Flash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where Robert Townsend said that they were having something as the real people, not the characters. And Robert Townsend said, I'm just going to let it play out. So then they had tension. So then when it came off in the movie, it was real because they really had tension with each other. And I think a lot of them try to do that. Mm-hmm. When I think about some scenes, let me see which one, because I was looking down here at a scene, because my daughter was like, you be looking down. I said, because I be looking at the scenes. I ain't looking, texting. I'm looking at the scene. So I'm going to play a scene that Robert Townsend said that the executives, because the movie was like hours long and they had to cut a lot of it because it's already a long movie, but it was super long. And this is one of the scenes that they kept wanting to cut out. And Robert Townsend was like, no, this is going to resonate with audiences. I'm not cutting out this scene. they were like, well, you just got to do that. And throughout the documentary, you hear him keep saying every time he went, they would say, I'm going to take this scene out, until there's 2 scenes that they kept wanting to take out. I'm going to play one of them, then I'll play the other one later. And Robert Townsend said when they did the rough, I guess, the viewing of it, and the audience was in there just to see, and the executives were like, those were the 2 hottest scenes that people were crying and people were so happy about. This was one of them. And I don't even have to show the scene for you to get it in your head as soon as you see it.
Combine this part with this part. Some people want first side of story. Some people hold on and work it out together. I believe in me. The rainbow ahead may be hard to see. To be straight. So let's go. No matter how hard it gets, we have been together. There's so much life ahead. We've got so much to do. No matter how hard it gets.
All right. So that scene, he said executives kept saying it's a waste of time. It don't have nothing to do with the movie. We're going to cut that out. But Robert Townsend found the young lady at an audition, and she didn't get the part for the acting. And then when she was leaving, she said, Mr. Townsend, can I sing for you? And when she sang for him, it blew him away. And he was like, I got to find the place to put her in the movie. So what he did was rewrote part of the movie and wrote that scene to do it. So he loved it, and he had to keep fighting for that scene. What other scene do you think he had to fight for? Just guess. It's a real good scene.
Ooh. I don't know. I'm trying to think of. I mean, I like.
It's probably one of your favorite scenes.
This. I mean, I'm thinking of the scene with Big Red.
So this is the scene.
When he tells the guy,
this is the
my
scene.
Office hours.
This is the scene they didn't want in the movie.
Oh, okay, yeah, that is one of my favorite scenes.
I figured. Look at baby.
Take your time. Over storm. And the billows.
Even though we know that ain't them really singing. It sounds
good. But just the emotional part to both of those scenes. And see those 2 scenes that you just showed, and the fact that they were they were adamant about trying to take them out, to me shows that Hollywood knows nothing about what resonates with people.
Yeah.
And especially more specifically what resonates with us as black people.
With black people.
Yeah, because there's nowhere in the world that young lady singing the way that she was singing, that part written like that, and him trying to figure out this song, and his little sister is singing in his ear.
Yeah.
You know, the words to this song that he's trying to figure out, that you
Yeah.
don't catch that. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the second one you just showed with Eddie Kane getting himself together and his wife coming back to him. That's, you
Right.
know, that's that's
And
storybook
that's
right there.
so let me tell you something. They said I totally agree with you. And you sound like Robert Townsend because that's what he was saying. That was his fight. So this was one of the first scenes that they filmed for the movie. So you know, with movies, sometimes they film out of order.
Right.
This
Right.
was one of the first days of filming.
Really? Wow.
And
Okay.
it's so funny because he said the executive, the white executives, was like, we can't take that out. That's when Eddie gets saved. And he said the white people were like, well, saved.
What saved me?
Saved
Right.
for what? Saved what? And he was like, no, you can't, because that's his redemption.
You saved him. I don't see nobody coming there.
And he said he had to explain saved. And but it's beautiful to see because I love redemption. And I love when people are just people that they want to throw them away or they're raggedy or they're not, and then they evolve. I love stories like that. And most people do. They want to see a redemption story, a victory. Right. So it was only when it was tested in the theaters before it came out. You know how they have that one theater and they tested and people were crying. And he said when Robert Townsend told him to get out of the theater. So he said he had to walk across the street to some place because they didn't want the testing to be tainted because they saw Robert Townsend there and said, oh, we like it just because they saw him. So when they called him back across the street to the theater, they were like, people were in there crying. They loved when Eddie got saved. But looking at Baby Doll right there, looking at Baby Doll and looking at how she stayed with Eddie, guess who was supposed to be Baby Doll, who he really wanted to play Baby Doll, not Troy Byer. She did an amazing job. Right. And he later ended up directing her movie Babs. That was her movie.
Oh, but, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Babs was that. Troy Byer's movie. Okay. And he just loved working with her, and just they had a rapport to later when he directed that. But guess who he really was going after for the role of Baby Doll? Okay. Like having meetings. I'll give a hint. Met with her father. And she said, I don't think I will do the movie. She's saying that she was going to do the movie. And then something came up and, you know, people say, well, it might not be a big enough movie. And later she came back to Robert Townsend and said, I messed up. I wish I did that movie. That's one of my favorite movies. Guess who it was?
Sanaa Lathan.
No, I'll give it a hint. Give you a hint. It's a singer.
And her father?
A singer. I want to dance with somebody.
Whitney?
Yup. Whitney was going to be Baby Doll. He wrote it for her. He wanted her to do it. And I can see her doing it. I can see her doing that. But the thing was...
No, but you got to think about that. That was back in 91. Whitney Houston.
I can see her doing it. I can see it.
To me, she was not an actress back in 91. She was.
But you have to understand. You have to understand. We don't know. We don't know.
Nah.
I think she would have known.
I'm not seeing Whitney.
I can see it.
Like I said, but see, here's the thing.
I can see it.
Here's the thing. But like I said, you got to think about the time. This is 1991.
Mm-hmm.
Whitney Houston was at the peak of her singing career. Singing. She was nowhere near acting.
But you have to understand, a lot of these singers are actors. Just because you haven't seen them in anything.
No, think about the time. You're talking 1991, not now.
No,
1991. Whitney was nowhere near an actress.
But you don't know that. You don't know where she went to school. You don't know how many plays she was in.
All right, let me ask you this. What was Whitney's first movie?
That was the first movie because that's what she chose it to be. But you don't know. Like, say, for instance, you might say, I'm not an actor, right? But I've been acting literally me, right? I have been acting since like I was 8 years old. In acting school, I went to a school like Fame, right? I was in high school plays. I was in college plays. I would do all of that. But nobody would know that if I bust on the scene now. They're like, who's this life coach trying to be an actor?
No, it wasn't like Whitney was already on the scene. She was
Yeah.
well known, but that's just like the transition that a Queen Latifah, an Ice Cube, a Will Smith, they made the transition from music into acting, which I which we've seen that that all of those that I just named have done excellent jobs of transitioning into movies. And this was Robert Townsend's second movie? I think his second movie. So when you it just like I said, I think that the cast.
But think about this. Queen Latifah, I love Dana Owens. I love me some Queen Latifah, right? When she was doing UNITY with Moni Love, I couldn't picture her being an amazing actress as she is now.
But that was years
until she did it.
No, that was years before I think she started off doing small parts because I remember her being on. I remember her being on The Fresh Prince. She did a.
She was on The Fresh Prince.
She did I think one or two appearances on there. So she got her feet wet.
But I guess my point is, you never know someone could do it until you've seen it. Because Baby Doll wasn't a large role, but it was a significant role. It wasn't like a lot of scenes, but it was just significant. So I and we could definitely agree to disagree. That's not that's good. That makes good entertainment. We can't agree. We agree on 99.9%. If we disagree 1%, I'm cool with it. Because me and you be here.
I'm just not feeling Whitney.
I'm cool, and that's okay.
Baby doll.
That's okay.
She probably would have been too tall for Eddie Kane, because she probably would have been taller than him, so they wouldn't even have done that. But I think.
Basine said I could see Whitney too, because she would have given her all bodyguard was her first, and she killed it. So she would have. Thank you, Basine. I could have seen her do it. Thank you, baby. Okay. And she said she could see Wesley Snipes being Eddie Kane. I could see that.
Heck no way in the world. No, Wesley Snipes is Eddie Kane. And that was right around New Jack City. So you know good well that wasn't going to work.
Because you thought people. See, you don't allow people to be multifaceted. You like, no, they can't do it.
No, it's not that. Like I said, we're not talking today after we've seen their career.
That's what I'm
talking 1991.
That's why even more I think that they can, because we don't have expectations. There's no expectations because we don't know.
So now remind me again, why did you say that he didn't, what happened with Whitney? It was just a conflict.
Because Whitney was, because Whitney's father was her manager then. Later, Whitney's father sued her for all the money while he was in the hospital. He really treated her raggedy towards the end. But he had a meeting with them. They had a couple, and she was going to do it, and she was going to do it, and she was going to sign on. And then her father or them, they were saying, well, we're going to pass because you don't know something is going to be a hit yet, but she was all for it. But then her father, and so it was just like, no, we're going to pass on it. And then when she saw it, he said she called her. She called him. Robert Townsend said, and was like, you know what? I made a huge mistake. But then the other casting director said, just see Troy Byer, just see her. You're going to love her. Just see her. And when he saw her, and he saw her as Baby Doll, and he was like, yes,
Baby Doll.
That's Baby
Doll.
And so he wanted Denzel and Whitney, who later played together as the preacher's wife.
But that just goes to show you how casting.
Basine said no, because Michael Wright is 6'1", so that would have worked. That's true.
Okay.
That's true. Thank you, baby. That's our favorite fan. We're gonna have a gift for you one day.
I know, right? But I mean, it just goes to show you sometimes how things work out when it comes to certain movies and everything like that. Because think about it. Think about it if Robert Townsend had gotten who he wanted to get in this movie, Denzel and Whitney Houston, who were, Denzel is still a box office hit. And Whitney was as big as you can think of, even in '91. Both of them were very they were A-listers when it came to music and when it came to acting and everything like that. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that they would have done a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
You know, that's just who they are.
But it all happened the way it was supposed to, because this cast was brilliant. So that's how things work out. You might be saying, I want this person to be in my movie. I want this at this. And then the other person comes and knocks it out. And you like, you know what? I was wrong, because these people did darn good. Now, like Leon, to me, that was like perfect for him.
Absolutely.
That was perfect for him. So what was, when you think of Five Heartbeats, what's the first scene that you think about? If you think about Five Heartbeats and you never seen Five Heartbeats, you know the this to this to this. And I forgot to say in the beginning, as always, if you are tuning in to More Than Just a Movie, disclaimer, it's a spoiler alert, people. If your parents or grandpappy or grandmama ain't allowed you to see this, or you haven't seen it, or you've been under a rock, or you've just been born, then go back and watch it. But we are going to spoil some of it because it came out in 1991, 30 years ago. Okay, so when you think about Five Heartbeats and you're talking to someone and you're like, oh, remember this, remember that, what's that scene?
The one that I always think about, and always me and one of my friends, we always say the line that goes along with it, and it's my office hours are from. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one scene that we talk about. So I always think about that.
So explain that scene to the people who've been under a rock, or that's their favorite. Talk about what happens in Big Red's office.
Yeah, what it is the Five Heartbeats. They had gotten signed to what was the name of his record company? Was it Big Apple? Was it Apple?
Yeah.
Big Apple Records. And his name, the character's name, it was his name.
Big Red.
No, I mean his name. His real name is Hawthorne James.
Yes,
great actor. He's an actual great actor.
And he's a theater actor.
Yeah.
So when Robert Townsend said that what he wanted to do, he's nothing like that. Like he talks like this. Like he talks like he's about to get on the theater scene. And he said when he did that, he said, I thought that Robert Townsend was brilliant. It was brilliant. And that hair was flipping. But go ahead, tell the scene.
But the Five Heartbeats get signed to Big Red's record label, and they're on the label, and they he also signs the guy named what's his name? What was the
Flash? You talking about Flash?
No, not Flash. Was it Flash? Wait a minute. No, Bird. It was Bird.
Oh, Bird. Yes, Bird. Yeah, Bird.
He also signs Bird, Bird and the Five Heartbeats were in this music competition at the beginning of the movie. So you got to see the movie to understand that. But Big Red winds up signing both of them to his record label. So Bird finds out that that Big Red has these double books, as a lot of those record producers did back then and still do today, I'm sure. They had the double books. So he wants to talk to Big Red about him keeping his books the way he keeps his books, because it was messing with Bird's royalties and how he got his money. So you mess with a man's money, it's like Big Perm said, you messing with my emotions. He goes to see Big Red about his money, and it's during a party that Big Red is having for the record label or whatever. So he's like, I'd like to talk to you about, your books and how you keep your books. So Big Red was like, he didn't say this, but he wasn't having it. So the way that he dealt with artists who got out of pocket was, let me show you who the boss is.
Yeah.
So he hauls back, knocks him down, and proceeds to beat him up, and then takes him out to the balcony of one of the hotel rooms right there in that hotel. And he hangs him over the balcony like he gonna let him go and kill him.
Like they tried to do Tay Diggs on Best Man.
Right, exactly. Or the way that I heard that Suge Knight did what's his name? Ice Baby. To
get him out the contract.
Yeah. Right. So Big Red does this, and as he after he pulls him back up and sits him down on the ground, he goes to him and says, "Now, if you have any other problems that you need to see me about my books,
with that hair, don't forget that hair,
right,
was all sweated out,
and your royalties, my office hours are," and he points to him, and then, and when he says from 9 to 5. So Big Red lets him know, look, I'm the one that's running this thing, and you don't come
right?
in front of me and in front of everybody else acting like you running things.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that was that scene.
Basine wanted to talk about her favorite scene. She said her husband, her favorite scene is the guy says, "I gotta fight every day to prove my love." And then when the reunion of Leon and Robert
Yes,
at the end,
yes.
and the little boy's name was Duck. That was tear jerking because when they hadn't talked for years,
Yeah,
the brothers, because of Leon, because of JT,
right.
and they just hadn't talked. And when they had, that is one of my favorite scenes too,
Yeah,
Basine.
yeah, me
When
too.
at the end, when they were at that cookout and they all came, they was all old trying to do them steps. And she was like, "Duck, come here, Duck." And Robert Townsend looks over there,
Whoever
and
has kids first.
I was like, that scene
No,
was
but you
good.
got hold on. You just glossed over it. Go back to the first one you said
I know.
about the.
I'm sorry. I got to that one because that's just
You
so
got to
touching.
tell that
But you
scene
talking
right
about I
there.
got to fight every day to prove my love. You talking about that?
You
Go
got
ahead.
to tell
Talk
that
about
whole
that
scene.
scene.
No, you got to tell that one. You got to tell that whole scene right there because that was hilarious. It was funny, but it goes to show you how some of your boys do you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But go
Yes,
ahead. Go
because
ahead.
but it's him just doing the trickery. It's him doing the, that sly stuff and that gaslighting. That's really what it is. So it was just Leon being Leon. Because that was with him, right? That was with JC, right?
Well, no. All right. Let
When
me
he was
tell
with
it.
the girl, right?
Let me tell it before he got to the girl.
Okay,
what
before. Okay.
what they usually did, JT and Duck, since they
They
were
played
brothers,
that
they played that.
game to try to
Yeah,
save my brother.
the
Go ahead, I'll let
wing.
you say
Yeah,
it.
he
Yeah.
plays his wingman. He
Yeah, the
plays his
wingman.
wingman.
There you go.
So he's like, let's do. Duck was like, let's do Shy Brother, which is this scene where the other guy goes up to the girl that they like, and they're trying to set him up with the other guy that's going to be sitting to the side.
Yeah.
So Duck was like, he sees this girl that he likes, and he's like, JT, let's do Shy
But
Brother.
he goes up for him,
Right.
himself.
So he goes up. So JT goes up to the lady, and he totally dogs out his brother. He was like, look at him over there. Got a stupid look on his face. Can't
Oh,
dance.
you want to explain from the get. Yes, exactly. Yep. Yep.
He just totally dogged his brother out.
And he's sitting over there looking goofy.
Right.
And his brother's sitting over there like looking all goofy. So everything that he was saying, then you look back at Robert Townsend, he looked crazy. He looked like a clown.
So after he finishes talking and he gets up and I guess where they get to the point where the guy is usually going to come over, Robert Townsend gets up and starts walking over to her, and JT tells him, "No, I got this one," and him and the girl start to walk away, and then
Duck is like,
it's like, what happened?
And Duck is looking goofy because he already got the hair, the in the character hair. That hair is already crazy to me. And then he's looking, but it makes me smile because when they did, and Basine will be able to appreciate this, when they did the New Edition movie, right? When they did the New Edition movie, is two scenes that reminded me of the Five Heartbeats. Mm-hmm. So similar to that one is when Ralph was trying to get his girl when they were little, and they go up to Xena and they try to say, in that little part, and they try, and Xena later was Ralph's girlfriend for many, many, many years. But they did the same thing when Ralph was trying to be the quiet one and to go over there to holler at Xena, and Ralph is just sitting there. He was like, look at him. He did all the karate and talking about stuff. And then Ralph was sitting over there looking goofy. It reminds me of the Five Heartbeats when he goes up to the girl because they kind of played Shy Brother. And then also a scene that reminds me of the Five Heartbeats with the New Edition story is when Ronnie gets married and all of the group members come back together for Ronnie's and Ronnie and Shamari's wedding. And then Brooke Payne says, and you know, with all 6 members of New Edition here, and then Ronnie is trying to sing Candy Girl to Shamari, and they're all in the background. That reminds me. So every time I see New Editions, I'm like, oh, it reminds me of Five Heartbeats. And then when I see the Five Heartbeats again, I was like, so I don't know. I would like to think so, but I it almost was like they were paying homage to Five Heartbeats, but I believe it still happened with them. But
but that's what I was telling you.
Yeah,
that's what I was telling you about the story. Those stories. If you look at the stories, those stories, they're so much alike. I don't think that there was anything that was made up to make it look like the Five Heartbeats. That was how it happened. You had the lead singer of the Five Heartbeats, which when you think about New Edition, Bobby Brown was the one that brought them together.
Yeah, he started.
So that was Eddie Kane.
Let him know that history, Leroy. Come on. It was Bobby who put the group together.
That put the group together because he was afraid to go back. Well, Bobby was scared to go back on stage again by himself.
He ran into his sister's bosoms. He was scared. He was like, "That's too much for me."
Yeah,
and then fast forward a few years, he taking his shirt off.
Right, he got rid of that. He got rid of that scaredness real quick, didn't he?
He was a scaredy cat.
But those stories. You could, like I said, you could take the Temptations, you could take the Dells, you could take
I agree.
All of them, and up to like I said, New Edition, and the stories are going to be very similar. They're very similar. I guess and maybe it's just, I mean, I'm talking the whole story. You had that one dude that was way out there, or gets way out there because of the superstardom that they get into, and I don't want to say can't handle it, but it becomes more than what I think that they can handle. And everything like that. So they get caught up.
Yeah.
They get caught up. You got the
No, go ahead, finish.
What you got the Ralph Tresvant character who was the one that's always working. That's Duck.
And sacrificing himself
sacrifice for the group. Right. And everything like that. All of those things that kind of intertwine. That I think were intertwined. You could even take that to the Temptations where they did like that. And you got I think the only difference in the Five Heartbeats was Eddie Kane didn't branch off and go sing.
Yeah,
he got caught up in the drug game.
Drugs. Yeah,
but did come back to sing. But with Bobby, he went on to do his thing. Eddie Kendricks from the Temptations, he went on to have a solo career, and Robert, what's his name, David Ruffins.
Yeah, David Ruffin, well. Dennis Edwards, so many of them had solo careers.
Yeah,
you know that a lot of people get the Temptation movie and Five Heartbeats mixed up because of Leon? So Leon was on Vivica Fox's podcast. Yeah, exactly. So Leon was on Vivica Fox's podcast last year, and I was listening to the interview, and Vivica, I was like, come on, girl, you know better than that, because she kept saying the Temptations. Every time he said Five Heartbeats, she was correcting him saying the Temptation. He was like, no, Five Heartbeats. And then she was like, I thought that was, and he said so many people think because he was in them, they forget about the Temptations actual movie, says, well, was it Five Heartbeats Temptations? And he's like, no, it was the Dells, but so many people because of Leon, because he's in both. He played Little Richard, he plays everybody when it comes
I know he done played
old school.
Yeah, and I think people, if you're a movie connoisseurs like we are, then you know who he played in the Five Heartbeats, at JT, but in the movie The Temptations, he plays David
Ruffin.
He plays that was a true character that he played, David Ruffin.
Yeah.
Now in the Five Heartbeats, that was based on a group all itself.
Yes.
But he specifically played David Ruffins in the Temptations movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the roles weren't similar though. JT played the lady,
But people just see it looks like back in the day, it's the Temptations or it's the Five Heartbeats. But I have some trivia for you with Diane Carroll. Robert Townsend wanted the legendary, the beautiful, the late Diane Carroll. He wanted her in the movie.
Absolutely.
In old school way, he wanted her, and she was like, well, let's sit down for lunch. So they sat down and he said that she was like, okay, who's the character? How do you see the character? How do you come? She asked all the professional questions. And then once Robert Townsend just spilled everything and, you know, his personality and talked to her, and she was like, I'm in. So her being in, she turned down Boys in the Hood in 1991 to be in the 5 Heartbeats.
And see, I can't. But
so there you go.
You know, was she supposed to be Angela Bassett's character?
And she didn't say, I don't know the role. I don't know the role that she was supposed to play. Like, I can't see her playing Angela Bassett. It's like, maybe, I don't know. I don't know the role. Yeah. So let me, and also, let's see what I wanted to say. Oh, so the scene where Big Red beats up and dangles the singer out the window, like you were talking about with the royalties and everything, it really happened to Jackie Wilson.
Really?
Yep. In real life. And I'm sure Jackie Wilson, as we know, wasn't the only one.
Right, exactly.
And Robert Townsend spent his free time on the set of the screenplay writing The Meteor Man. So when they have free time, he was still in one. That's a beast. That's a boss right there. You filming one movie and you writing another one. And that Meteor Man, y'all remember that came out in 1993.
Always thinking about the next project. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So the movie starts off in 1965 with the 5 Heartbeats. The Delphonic song, Didn't I Blow Your Mind? Didn't I blow your mind this time? But guess what? The real song really wasn't released until the year I was born, 1971. So people didn't catch that. That movie was supposed to start in 1965, the 5 Heartbeats. But Didn't I Blow Your Mind didn't come out until 71. But nobody caught together, that. Though. Right.
That all meshed. That time frame, it all meshed together. You know? Right.
And one more. So the lives of several performing R&B groups and artists inspired by this film. Like we talked about, the Dells, the Temptations, Frankie Lyman, Sam Cooke. According to Robert Townsend in Madame Noir interview, Townsend says that the crux of the story was based on the breakup, as I was saying, with Temptations. And the Temptations was Robert Townsend's favorite group. So he said he took it personally. So he wanted to be like, well, why did y'all break up? And that really inspired him to do this. And he also revealed, which I didn't know on the documentary. I told you I've seen this documentary like 100 times, and I saw it in the movie. And in the movie theater, it was like limited. But he also was in the movie Mahogany. Did you know that as an extra? Robert Townsend.
No.
And he showed little clips of, he was trying to get close to, Diana Ross and, Barry Gordy and all of that. So I was like, Robert Townsend been at this thing for
Well, you got to think about it. You got to think about it. When he did Hollywood Shuffle.
Yep.
That was in maybe the early 80s.
And all done by credit cards.
Right. He did that on his own dime. That was done on his own dime.
Yeah.
But how? So he's been in that industry. He had been in that industry.
Yeah.
Way before he did the 5 Heartbeats. Yeah. And everything like that. Because you got to think him and Keenan wrote Hollywood Shuffle. Like I said, I think there was an early to mid 80s. I think is when that came out. And everything like that. And that's what catapulted him, I believe, into doing the 5 Heartbeats. Because he had done a lot of the HBO specials, comedy specials, I think.
Oh, they used to be good. Because he used to have singers at the end. Remember, he used to have singers at the end.
But think of
Howard Hewitt being on there.
Think of the comedians that came through. That came through and did that cycle with him.
And then at the end, he would have a singer. Because I remember Howard Hewitt was on there one time singing Amen. But he had the because remember he used to wear the hat, Robert Townsend, that long trench coat,
that coat
on that. Yeah.
That was Def Jam before.
Yes.
Before Def Jam.
And he did a lot of before. So I remember when in the documentary they were talking about when Keenan Ivory Wayans, because that was his writing partner. They came up with the idea of 5 Heartbeats, and later he reworked it to add and put scenes when Keenan walked away. But Keenan said when he saw that movie, When that came out, Keenan said he was blown away with not only his contribution, but what Robert did and how it actually came into fruition. It was even better than they ever thought, because that was a good movie. And it didn't make what it should have made, but they said that it really started when DVD sales, VHS sales came, and people were renting it and buying it, and then the DVDs and the Blu-rays, and that's when it skyrocketed and went into a direction that they had no clue, where people would walk up to them and say, "This is a classic. This is my favorite movie." Robert Townsend said thugs will come. He said one guy came up to him one time, this thug, he was like, "Yo, Robert Townsend." He kept calling him Robert Townsend. He said, "Yo," he was like, "'Cause I cried." He was saying that he was on that. He said, "Robert Townsend, I was on that stuff. And when I saw that scene with Eddie King getting saved," he said, "I stopped and I said, if he could do it." And he said that he said the thugs. But everybody, I know Bobby Brown talks about this movie like that's one of his favorite movies. So many people, it's one of their favorite movies. So other things that remind me of New Edition, I got to figure out a way to put New Edition in, but is when they're on the stage. And with the New Edition story, remember when Bobby was going over his time and Ronnie came out there and they was acting a fool? That's how it was with JT, because JT wanted to be the lead, and then they would be fighting on stage. Remember they played and ripped off the clothes, the tuxedos. Remember they did that?
Yep. But see, we haven't even gotten to this part too. And I mean, just as like we said, this movie, we could talk about this movie all day, you and I could, but let's get into here's one scene that I like too, and that I think about was when Eddie finds out that Flash wants to take his spot. And they at the hotel.
But I'm telling you, that's the scene I was talking about earlier, where they already had tension. And then they played out that scene. So go ahead, talk about that scene.
Yeah, well, like I said, Eddie had already had a conversation with Red, and of course, Big Red is trying to pit them against each other, or he's trying to pit Eddie against the group because he wants Eddie to sing by himself. And Eddie has the big head, so he knows where he could get to him. So they're at the hotel, and I don't know if they were getting ready to go sing or they had just come from singing or whatever it is. And so Flash is coming out of his room and Eddie is coming past him, and he's like, he basically is telling Flash, "I know you want my spot." And he goes, "You want my spot, Flash? You want my spot? Well, guess what?
That was real.
You can't have it."
Yeah, that was real. But that was real because they didn't like each other. Like the real Flash went to Robert Townsend and was like, "Oh, you need to do something with him because I'm about to," like it was really intense. He said they were. And Robert Townsend said that he kind of allowed it for a minute, and that's the scene we got. Right. So that wasn't faking. That wasn't no good acting. They was really going at it during that scene. And then I guess, Eddie King or Michael Wright was really antagonizing him for real.
Right.
And that's what we got. And those are some of the scenes. I'm looking at some of the scenes now. It's just so many different scenes. Yeah, let's just talk about, since we talk about Black love, let's just talk about Diane Carroll and her husband in the movie, and who was by the Nicholas brothers. But let's talk about, and we touched on it a little earlier, let's talk about Baby Doll and Eddie King Jr. How she started off young, they did, and she was riding for him, and she went through all the trials and tribulations with him. She stuck beside him. She was there for him, and at the end, when he finally, look, now you're gonna wait till you're gonna get yourself together. But that's how it happens, and sometimes it just takes a minute. But when she revealed herself, remember he was singing and you couldn't tell that she was in the choir, and then she stepped up and you like, oh shoot, Baby Doll still with him.
Well, you gotta remember, I think she had left him.
Yeah.
She had left him, and that's when he had really had he had really fallen into his addiction. He'd fallen into his addiction, lost her because she was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah. And they never show how they got back together. You just see them.
That's why the scene is just like, what? Baby Doll She comes back. She comes out the back with that wig on because she's like in the choir and we don't know. And choir boy got it together. And of course, he had ruined the relationship with everybody and sort of like Bobby at one point. You know, everybody, his ego had gotten, Bobby is my absolute favorite. His ego and, the addiction got the best of him. Mm-hmm. And outside of two members, he kind of isolated for a minute. And all of the members did that in New Edition at one point or another, just like the 5 Heartbeats. And they convinced Duck to come to church. Right. And then he comes to church. And, choir boy looks at Duck and Duck looks at choir boy and they both look at Eddie King and then he starts singing, start wailing up there, looking all clean, looking clean, looking like he, got a little extra weight, like he's doing good and all that stuff. And that was a powerful scene. I can't imagine that scene not being
I know, right? Movie. Can you? I'm like, how do you watch something like that? And that just, like I said, that just goes to show you how detached folks are. The experiences are different. I'll put it like that. The experiences are different
because white people don't sometimes. And of course, we got some white people. Let's keep it real, who all about God and they go to church and all of that. So we're not saying all, but these stuffy executives didn't even know what saved was. So that goes to show. Didn't even know why it was significant to have that scene in there. Yeah. So I'm glad that, like Erykah Badu says, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my ish. I'm glad that Robert Townsend was sensitive about his ish and said no. And he fought for it to the point where he was ignoring calls and dodging calls and acting like he know, to keep it in there. And then when they finally saw the reaction of the crowd, that's when they said, okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you one.
Go ahead.
No, I'm going to give you one more scene that I think is compelling, but it's on the sad side of it. And that's when I believe Eddie Kane is in probably like the middle of his storm with his addiction, and the 5 Heartbeats now with Flash are on top of the charts and everything. They're doing well, and he catches them coming out the back, and he starts to call them, and they like let him in, and he comes in, and he's like, I've been practicing. I'm ready to come back and I'm ready to do my thing. And he starts to sing. Nights like this, I wish raindrops would fall. And he just, you could.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah, but that was real. That was actually real though, if you ask me. And he actually has on the very suit that we see behind me here. He has on that outfit and it's dingy.
It was dusty.
It's dusty, dingy, dirty, unclean. And it was just sad, and you could see it. I mean, and each of the other, the Robert Townsend, Choir Boy, the only one the one that was mad was Dresser. Dresser was just like, I ain't got nothing to do with it
because he had already was patient, and that again was almost like Ronnie. Yep. When Bobby said, "When I know I upset you, that's when I know I went too far," and that was like Dresser.
Yeah. And of course, Flash just ignored him and went right by him. But that to me that was such a powerful scene too. But it was sad because it showed him kind of in the midst of what he had gotten into and how that addiction had taken him over. And I think if you want to talk about a turning point for him, when they tried to give him that money, he was like, I don't want your money, and that's when Choir Boy said, look, give me a call. And he gave him his card. And you can tell, obviously, he called him because he winds up, at his church, getting himself clean, getting his wife back, and all of those good things and everything like that.
So let me ask you this: as a man, you got JT and Duck, and your brother sleeps with your woman, and they sneaking back. Huh?
I said your fiance.
Your fiance at that.
It wasn't just
and they sneaking back and forth. Right. Exactly. And then the phone calls, and then the car drives off, and he's outside, and the whole scene at the building, and they think they're keeping it from Duck, and Duck finds out that, okay, yeah, I know you were playing with other women. Yeah, I know how you get down sometimes with other dudes, women, but your brother? What you think about that scene? I was like, man, because he knew he messed up. He already knew he messed up, but then he really knew when they got caught, he messed up, and that was his almost wife.
Yeah, and see, that was the thing. You got to remember, they were used to running game on women. Probably even, you know, when you think about that industry and everything like that, they probably stuck with the same women at one point and everything like that. So that wasn't anything different for them. The difference was this was the one that Duck had wanted before. He was chasing her for a minute because he had dropped the letter off to a house and everything like that. So he was really into her.
Yeah.
That's the part I think that hurt him. And you know, if you want to talk about characters, where JT just didn't care. JT was doing just what JT does. And he wasn't thinking about, man, this is somebody that my brother really cares about. Because even in the scene when he's talking,
he was so into himself and his ego and the ladies' man thing.
Because he even told the girl, he was like, what are you talking about? This wasn't how it was supposed to be. You know, you're not in love with him. You're not supposed to be in love with him. He was like, when we was fooling around, that was all fun and games and everything. But now you're talking about marrying my brother? No, it wasn't supposed to go that route. It wasn't supposed to be that deep. It was supposed to be just hey, we just rolling along. But Duck was serious about her and had been serious about her.
Yeah.
So that was, to me, that was the difference between her and all of the other girls that they had gotten involved with and everything like that. He really cared about her. He had been chasing her for a minute, you know.
That's a no-no. That breaks all kind of codes. And as you looked at the end, Duck wasn't married. So that was his love that got away in his brother, and that's why he didn't know his niece, you know, his nephews, JT's kids, when they were saying Duck, and then he said that he named, so he knew he was wrong, and he knew, you know, remember they said whoever has the child and all that, so all of that comes back, and you see that JT ends up having children and married or, you know, what have you, and then Duck still not. You know, I'm just glad the New Edition didn't wear the silver jumpsuits with the blue shirts, the ripple waves.
but
I'm just glad at nights like this.
Your boys were always dressed they were always coordinated and dressed to the nines and all of it. The outfits have actually gotten better over the years. And everything like that. So New Edition had, because that I'm telling you, the sharpest I've seen them, and I know we've been kind of correlating New Edition to this, and I watched the video because I love this song. You know the song "Sorry, I'm Not Your Kind
of Guy"? That's my favorite. That's like my top 5.
Those uniforms that they have.
I knew you were gonna say that.
In that video was just bam.
They were. I knew you when you were getting ready to say. I said, I know he getting ready to say. It's terrible, but I did. I knew.
But the outfits have come a long way from back in the 60s and 70s to
because even New Edition came out before the 5 Heartbeats. New Edition was out. But let's look at a little bit of the
Okay.
This is the scene we were talking about.
No sleeping in the hallway. And I'm tired of you going in my suitcase, JT. You went my post too, Doc. Ass first, JT. Nah, man, sit up and say, stop acting like a bitch. Oh, I'm acting like a bitch now. Yes, sir.
And they end up incorporating all the shows.
If that ain't New Edition right there. I love it.
teach them how to use everything they do. That's old school.
But I want you to see if you can find this scene too, because I want you to show it if you can find it. Hopefully,
Okay,
the one where JT and Flash are singing, competing with the girl, um, competing to get the girl.
Okay. Oh yeah. I'm trying to see if I can see the
See,
silver.
see, I
For
don't know if
those
you
that
can
don't know,
find it
the
or not.
silver jumpsuits I was talking about. It should be in this scene too.
Uh-huh.
The silver jumpsuits, so they can see. Now they use what was a bad thing to be a good thing.
That's right. You ain't gonna do it right. Let's not do it. Right down.
That's what I was glad they did.
That was the outfit that Eddie Kane had on when he sees them. And we probably, I don't know if we have enough time to get to it too, but when this was when they first break out singing, and they in that competition, and they're trying to sing and they're getting booed, and then Eddie comes in and starts to sing, and then you see his mother in the audience go like this.
Oh yeah, I just saw that one in the beginning. I just saw that one.
Yeah.
When the girls are you talking
scene.
about when the girls are sliding down in their seat? That one. Let me see if I can find that one.
I love that because
that's a good one.
That was a mother saying, "That's my baby right there. He doing what I know he can do."
I think it's this one. Is it this one? And then they start getting booed.
I think this is that one. Yeah, because they push them off of their piano. Look at him, mother. I love it. I love it.
It takes more than love, to build it up, to
I mean, that Flash is a bird.
They're like, who's that?
Wow, boy, coming from the back. But see, just that, if you notice that, just the writing and directing of the song going with the music. See if you can find the other scene I was telling you about with
Which one? But the quality. Let's not forget, before we end, is the quality of the movie.
Right.
The quality of the clothes, the quality of the scenes, the quality of the hair. The quality. Which scene? Which scene are you talking about?
The one where JT and Flash are singing again. They're competing against each other. But what happened? With Robert Townsend directing, this is probably this was before this movie, The Five Heartbeats and Ray are two of the best movies that I believe that the music told the story a lot. It matched perfectly with where the story was going and how they wrote the story, because each song matched the time frame in which that they were writing about. Same thing in Ray. The same thing with Ray happened with his story, and the way that they told his story. The music correlated, I mean, perfectly with how that story was told and everything like that.
Yeah.
You know.
But here, I found this scene. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. And how that's why the screenplay and the script is so important.
Yeah.
And I know when Robert Townsend in the documentary, he was saying, you know, he had the storyboard. And for those who don't know what a storyboard is, it's like you draw out what the scenes will be doing and what they'll be doing. So it's almost like a business plan for a business. You're laying it all out. You're saying this is how it's going to be. That's what a storyboard is. And that's what you pitch and you sell. So it wasn't like he just got in the film, got a camera and started shooting. You can tell there was a lot of thought and there was a lot of effort. Thank you. Oh, thank you. A lot of thought. Daryl put me a smoothie. He just walked in. It's a smoothie, but I love drinking everything out of a wine glass.
No, what kind of smoothie is that?
What is this one? Berry, what is it? He just walked in. He said a whole bunch of junk. I don't know. Good junk. And it's purple.
Like, let me just throw that in there. Looks like grapes are in there.
Ooh. You got cinnamon in it? I wasn't expecting that cinnamon. I wasn't expecting, because normally I don't put cinnamon in mine. So it was a different kick. But it's healthy, so I take it because I have my water right here. Water and lemon. And then, it's so funny because purple and green are my favorite colors.
Oh, right. They sure are.
Walnut, I don't even like walnuts, and it tastes good. Turmeric, I can taste that. Yeah, he just walked in. That tastes good. This is live TV, y'all. But I have the scene that you, But I love drinking everything from a wine glass. It tastes better, even my water sometimes. All right, this is the scene you were talking about. You talking about this one? You talking about this one?
Yep. Just in Case is the song.
Let me turn it up.
Just in case that peace. Just in case it's not the way it should be. Baby, keep my number by your side. And when you want to call me, don't think.
Those girls, you ain't got to do much, do you? Leon only wishes he could sing like that.
I love that scene right there. JT was like, I'm going to let you know who the real player is.
Look. So imagine, you take your woman to a show.
Exactly.
So you take your woman to a show, and she's all
I wish
like
you would
that.
act like that. Yeah, you getting left just like he did her. Like, yeah.
Now, I've been in many a front row, and the last time I saw New Edition was their last tour.
Oh, okay.
No, I saw RBRM. That was Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike. RBRM was the last one, and I was standing at the stage in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Went to that one and was standing right on the stage like this. So the pictures I was taking was like this. So I got them all in there. And then the beautiful thing when they all come together, and I love the fact that with 5 Heartbeats, they all came back together at the end. And I talked about how New Edition did that. But the only thing that New Edition did was branch out. So they stayed there. Right. But this group, like many groups, like I can't think of anybody from the Dells, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, that went solo. Yeah. Like, so some groups are really, they like being a group. And when the group doesn't work, then they disband. Right. Yeah, then it's not like they want to be. And I would think that, you know, with the men and women, it's a sisterhood, it's a brotherhood, and it becomes your family. And I know with Ricky, since we were talking about New Edition, or since I was talking about New Edition, that was his drug. Right. Outside of the drugs he did, even in the movie, they talked about how Ricky, he was addicted, but he was also addicted to the group, addicted to performing. Right. And he was depressed and he was doing drugs when they weren't on stage or they weren't performing. Not to mention that he was losing everything because of the money. But some people, like, they have to do that.
But you got to think that was all that Ricky knew. Yeah, that was his, and he even said that in the New Edition. His wife. He was like, I can't do anything else. Right. I don't know anything else. This is all I know is singing.
Because she was like, "You're Ricky Bell. You can't get a job," and he was like, "This is right."
He was like, "No," I mean, honestly, I believe that he could have. I believe that Ricky could have done.
And look at you remembering that New Edition scene. You better go.
Oh no, I love that. I love how they did that story. And they didn't, and how they broke it up. They actually, to me, could have put that in the theater. I think they should have just made it.
Oh, for sure.
One big, you know, should have put it in the movie theaters, as opposed to breaking it up on BET. But they did what they did.
Yeah. And shout out to Basine, because we did see it in the theaters. So Basine, I went to see New Edition get their Hollywood Walk of Fame star. So I was able to see part 1 with them, with the group of, you know, them. But a huge thing is I did, and Basine was there, and Basine actually won the ticket to do that and invited me, and I'm so grateful for that. But we got to see the first part in the theater, and not only did we see the first part in the theater, the boys were there. So I stood up in the theater after it was over, and they wanted to know how it was. This is before the movie came out, and they wanted to know how the movie was. And you know, I got a chance to get up and talk to the fellas and tell them what, you know, what New Edition meant to me in the movie. And after I got done, everybody started clapping. Basine Italian. They were like, "You said exactly what I wanted to say to them." So everybody kept coming up to me like, you gave the sentiments that we all feel. And when I say that, it's like New Edition, you know, fans and family, we ride for them. And with this movie, 5 Heartbeats, the people who love 5 Heartbeats, we ride for 5 Heartbeats. We know the scenes without writing anything down. We can recall them. You were like, "Hey, go to this scene, go to that scene." Why do you think that it made such an impact on the culture?
Well, like I told you, it was the story. It was well written, well put together. You could just see it was well written. It was well put together. Yeah. And he had, Robert Townsend has it. And this is how you know somebody that's a great writer. Great writers give you a message. They give you a kind of like they give you there's certain messages, and there were multiple layers to this movie. It wasn't just about one particular person in this movie. You had 4 guys or 5 guys that came together, and each of them had their own individual stories. And Robert Townsend had a great way of telling, of each of them telling their own story within the big story. So I think people got it. I mean, I agree. Those scenes that we talked about, with them making it, when they first make it, everybody was like, "Yeah, they're getting their big shot." Everybody can relate to someone in the 5 Heartbeats. Yeah, we pretty much know somebody that might have been, you know, caught up in drugs. You know, the guy that's shy, you know, that's quiet and everything like that, like Duck. We know that the PK kid, the one that's quiet, but they got buck wild when they got out there. Yeah, you know, all of those things. The peacemaker, like I said, that Dresser was the peacemaker. So there were multiple characters that we could relate to within the story. And then, like you said, everybody loves a comeback story with Eddie King. Eddie King coming back and getting his life back together. And then at the end, when they all forgive each other, because it was about that last scene was about forgiveness, because he says, "Y'all sure y'all want to roll with Eddie King?"
Yeah,
and we were like, and
that
like,
was woo.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we sure. That means, hey, we forgive you. You know, it's forgiven. You know,
that was a tear. That one was a tear jerker.
Absolutely.
That when you just said that line right there, even when the way you just said it, I just can picture the scene in my mind, because you do have the problem. And Bobby has said that, and I keep hearing it, but Bobby has said that to them, man, I'm sorry for, and they still like, Bob, you still, Bob, you still, but of course he's evolved since then. And that's, what people do. Hopefully that's what you want. That's why people love Bobby so much, and people love Eddie King, because it's a redemption. Everybody wants to see someone who's been in the gully, in the gutter, to rise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and to get it, and they get it, and they're like, well, dang, I spent, I've spent a good portion of my life messing up, messing up, not just my life. I've messed up the carnage that I left with those individuals that I hurt.
Yeah.
So that's that's kind of what all of that's been about. That's why, like you said, I think that's why many of us love Bobby Brown, and we're glad to see him surviving. I'm talking about the new edition stuff, not just the new edition stuff, but the health stuff that he's gone through. He the one still here.
Yeah.
After everything that his family has gone through.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow.
Yeah. And Basine says, just the guys forgave Bobby. Yep. And then she said, remember when Eleanor slapped Big Red?
Yep. Come to the funeral.
How can we forget that one? How can we forget that one?
You killed my husband, and you got the audacity to show it to
because they were doing the death. Let's talk about that quick, because I was going to talk about that when they were doing the death threats. And you hear that, like you talked about Suge and some other people, you hear stuff like that. Yep. And then they show up at the funeral.
Yeah. It's like, and not just show up at the funeral, but then have the nerve to come up to her and say, if there's anything you ever need, I'm here for you. Like, what?
The goal. Not because Jimmy kept getting those death threats. He kept getting the death threats, the calls. And then the car, of course, and what happened. But that stuff is real.
Yeah.
Like that stuff be happening. Real. And then they show up at the funeral, or sometimes they even pay for the funeral.
Yeah.
And they're the ones. Yeah, that was a powerful scene. So we're going to end the show on the last scene, as we talked about, when they were at the cookout and the two brothers mended, and glad they were still alive to do that. And I love the evolution when they started young, and then they made the characters look older with the clothes and the hair and the skin. And to have them all dancing on that last scene, it was a feel-good moment when you're walking out of the theaters, or when you turn off your TV and you like, let's watch it again.
but who were they watching on? Who were the kids watching on TV? That was funny though too.
Right.
How Flash had gone on to be the very thing that the Five Heartbeats was like they're trying to turn us into.
Boom.
Which was that, to go along, get along, and commercialize them being black singers and everything like that. So that was the irony of the kids actually watching this this watered down R&B, and you had the fellas that was like, no, that's not real R&B right there. Let us show you
there you go
what it's all about.
Where it's all about. So we started a little late today, and so that's why we carried over. So if you're watching for the first time, it's typically 90 minutes, which it still was, but we just started a little later today, from 3 to 4:30 typically. So go back. This is episode 16, Leroy. This is episode 16.
I know.
We have been doing this thing. So if you're just tuning in to More Than Just a Movie for the very first time, go back and watch all of the other More Than Just a Movies. I'm sure your favorite movie is there. If it is not,
we gonna get
then
to
it will be, and you can rewrite.
So we gonna get to it.
Right. Leroy and I said, we could do this show forever. There's so many different, classic Black films. So I'm just in July, so next week we're going to take off because that's the week of my birthday. So I'm not doing any shows or any interviews or anything like that. And then we're going to pick up, of course, on the 23rd because that one is Tupac's birthday. Should we do Poetic Justice on his birthday?
Yeah, we got to do a pop movie, whichever one we do.
So
even if it's Poetic
that
Justice,
might be the only show I do. This More Than Just a Movie might be the only time I work the week before my birthday because the 16th, see, Tupac and I would be the same. He would be turning 50 this year too. And I love me some Tupac, and his birthday is the day before mine. Gemini's. He's June 16th. I'm June 17th, 1971. And that's a big one for him. So I think that that's the only why might work. So next week, Leroy, let's do Poetic Justice.
No, enjoy your birthday. Enjoy your birthday.
Okay.
We can do it the week.
So the next week. So we'll do Poetic Justice one time. Right. So we're not going to do no shows next week, but you'll see me on giving him some happy birthday love. But I won't be doing any shows because I got to reflect. I got to pray. I got to thank God. I got to sit in that. So I wasn't doing anything for that. But you see, it was trying to creep up. It was trying to creep up on me. You see?
You joining the 5-0 club. So come on in with the old ladies of the church. Say, come on in the room.
Come on in the room. But you see, that work was trying to creep up on me. I was like, okay, just one for Tupac. But I'll do something else special for Tupac, and later we will definitely do a Tupac movie, whether it's Poetic Justice or maybe we'll do Juice. Who knows?
Because there's a couple of them that
yes,
it's
a lot of them.
I think Poetic Justice was probably the one he was actually.
We'll do that because he was Cousin Lucky. But everyone, so we'll pick up and we'll resume on the 23rd. So we've been doing this every Wednesday. So we'll take next week off. So just to let you know and tell your people. But meanwhile, you can binge watch all of the other episodes. And I made them easy for you. So I made a More Than Just a Movie playlist. So you can just go to the playlist and click More Than Just a Movie, and they're all there. You don't even have to scroll. They're all there. So this is episode 16. And I think it'll be great when I come back because my birthday is June 17th. That we'll come back for episode 17 and continue. Leroy, I couldn't do this without you. You're the best person to have this job.
This is cool. This is always cool. And like I said, I knew this one, and like I said, I knew this was going to be extra fun because this is it's my favorite, but it's also one of your favorites too. I have to say this real quick. Every time we know that we're in line with God and what we're doing, and this is tell me what I sent you.
Because every movie that we do or about to do, Leroy says you'll never believe. The movie comes on. So all of these 1991, 1993, 1990, the movies come on. And last night, the 5 Heartbeats was on, and we already had this schedule. When I sent him the flyer to promote, he said, I forgot we were doing this. Yes, this is on. Every movie that we've done, usually that night or the next day or the night before, Leroy will send me pictures saying it's on. So we know we're in line with what we're supposed to be doing.
That has been so unreal.
Watch Poetic Justice come on before we do it.
I know, right? I know it will.
Just because we're talking about it. But tell everybody what they need to do to catch the show, like you always do. Come on, Leroy.
Well, hey, y'all know what y'all need to do. Y'all better go like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'm gonna say it again: like, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you ain't already did it, you better hit that notification button so you know when she come and go live. I ain't gonna say no more. I'm gonna go big red on y'all if y'all don't. So
look.
You Tasha K with the wine.
Right. Let me wash it down with some water. Bye, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to More Than Just a Movie, where we break down classic Black films. Today was all about the 5 Heartbeats. Shout out to Robert Townsend for paving the way and making a difference in making this movie. Until next time, y'all. Peace. God bless. Deuces. Bye,